Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm actually going to be testing out another palette. It seems to be palette week this week. Thank you for all the lovely comments on my last palette video that I did, because in that video I wasn't 100% sure about the makeup look, but you all seem to actually quite enjoy it, so thank you very much. But in today's video I'm going to be testing out this palette. This is the PHB 18-piece professional palette. Now I actually think you can get these all separately. So this comes with 8 eyeshadows, 4 lipsticks, 4 blushes, a bronzer and a finishing powder. But I'm pretty sure I've seen on websites that you can get those individually, so you don't have to get the whole thing, but I thought, you know what, why not get the whole thing. So this is what it comes with. It's quite chunky, quite heavy. This I can't remember how much this costs, but I'll leave it on the screen for you. So in here you get, oh, a bit of plastic's falling. And what I like is you actually get mirrors with this one. So this is what the, oh sorry I'm blinding you. This is what the blusher, powder and bronzer look like. Straight away I can tell that this powder is probably going to be a bit too dark for my skin tone. I'm quite a fair person, so I don't know how well it's going to work, but I'm going to use it anyway to test out the formula of it. The bronzer looks like it could be a quite good shade, and you've got some nice selection of blushes. I'd say these two are potentially probably going to be a bit too dark for my skin tone, so I'll probably stick with these two. And I really love this colour. It's more like a coral colour, which is kind of my kind of colour for blusher and stuff. And if you open up the second bit, you've got the 8 eyeshadows along here and the 4 lipsticks here. So the lipsticks all kind of similar colours. They're kind of brown to reddy tone lipsticks, and you've got a couple of good different shades of eyeshadows, so some neutral tones, and there's a pop of grey, blue and purple, which I really like as well. So just like the previous video I did, I will swatch everything for you, so you can see every colour clearly in the pigmentation, because I won't obviously be able to use everything. So I'm going to quickly do that first. Just to note, on my face all I have is foundation, concealer. I haven't set it because obviously I want to try this powder. My brows very badly done, and then just some excess mascara from the day. Everything else I will be using from this palette. The one thing it doesn't have, obviously, is a highlighter, so I may have to go with a different highlighter. But anyway, so I'm going to swatch the blushes first and the bronzer. There's no point me swatching the finishing powder, you'll just see that on my skin. You get a nice little selection of blushes. That's the only real pink one. You've got a couple like orangey coral shades, and this is more like a reddy brown shade, I'd say. So like I said, I don't think these two are really going to suit my skin tone. But let's have a little, oh, I feel nice, swatchy swatch of these. Oh, I would say they do look quite chalky on my fingers, so I'll have to see how this goes. So, well, let's do it my arm like this last time. I mean, they look very pigmented. I don't always want necessarily a very pigmented blusher on, but still it's a great pigmentation there. They do look quite chalky, I have to say. They look quite powdery, so I can blow off excess. So again, we'll just have to see how they apply on my skin. That's always the best way to find out. And we'll quickly just do that bronzer for you. Or I think that's, so it's quite a fair light tone bronzer. So I think it's great for my skin tone. I can't imagine people with much darker skin tones would be able to wear that. So okay, so moving on to the eyeshadows. What I'll do with the lipsticks, I'll actually just swatch all 4 on my lips rather than on my arm. So I'll do the lip swatches later when it gets to the lipstick section. So I'll swatch the top 4 first. They feel very, maybe slightly creamier than the blushes, I have to say. Great pigmentation, again still a little bit chalky, but we'll see how they apply. Oh, that's a nice colour. Nice colour there, nice selection. I say that pink didn't show up quite as well as the rest, but really pretty colours. They seem to have all a satin finish to them, so I don't know if there's any matte, don't think there's matte shades in here. And then if we go on to these final 4 quickly, I have to say I quite like that grey and that blue and that purple actually. Ooh. So you've definitely got the more darker colours on the bottom. I actually really like these colours. So let's just do, oh, that's nice. That is nice. Oh, that is nice. Yep. I like those shades. Again, they still look quite chalky, quite powdery on my arm and swatching them, but I'll test to see how they are on my eyes. So I'm not going to The pigmentation looks great, it's just they look quite chalky and potentially there's going to be a lot of fallout. But the best way to see how they really work is actually applying them to my eyes. So that's what I'm going to do, but first of all what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set my concealer, this finishing powder, see how it works. So I'm going to use my setting brush as always. Like I said, I think this is definitely more for a light to medium skin tone rather than fair skin like me, but we'll just see. I mean, it's not too bad, it's definitely not going to give any highlighting effect, but formulation seems quite nice. I'll just have to see how it looks at the end of this look. Okay, then I'm going to move back to the eyes because I like doing my eyes first. The eyeshadows here. So it's not much of a transition shade, but none of them are really shimmery, so I am just going to use this really pretty orange shade in my crease to kind of act as my transition shade. I kind of do want to play around with the more deeper colours, I have to say. So you do get a little bit of fallout with this, so that's all I will say. But actually that's a really pretty shade. Like I said, it's more like a satin finish. There's no shimmer, but it's definitely like a nice sheen to it. But it works quite well, I think, as a transition shade actually. I think I'm going to go in this really beautiful kind of green colour here. And just pack that on the lid for now. So I'm just going to pick some up with my brush. Ooh. So it's definitely not the most pigmented of eyeshadows, but it's a really pretty colour though. And I'd say they're very buildable as well. So if you're a beginner at eyeshadows, that's going to be quite nice because then you're not going to go like full on intensity to begin with. I'd say these eyeshadows work best when patted onto the lid as opposed to swiping. I'm going to go with a bit of this dark grey shade here. I wouldn't say it's black, it's definitely more dark grey. And this is going to go on the outer corner of your lid. Again, I'm going to pack this on. Seems to work best. Okay, so clearly I'm going for quite a smoky eye today. Then I'm going to take some of that grey shade and run this along my lower lash line. I have to say, I would quite have liked there to be a few matte shades in here. Like I said, there's no real like shimmer colours. There's a couple of shimmer colours, but there's no completely matte colours, I'd say. They've all got either some kind of satin sheen to them. And I'm also going to take a bit more of the dark shade and run this on just the outer section of the lower lash line. So I didn't realise it was going to be going quite so smoky today, but that's cool. With that pearly shade here, and use this as my inner corner highlight. So I think that's all the eyeshadows I'm going to play around with today. So I got to test most of these shades. I really wanted to see what this one's like on the lid because I think it'd be really beautiful. And I didn't get to, there was a couple up here I didn't get to try out on my actual eyes. But I think actually they are really nice eyeshadows. You've got to be careful because it is fallout. And like I said, I think they work best when you pack them on as opposed to do swiping motions. I just think you get more pigmentation that way. But I feel they blend out really nicely. They've got a good pigmentation where you can build it up. So like I said, if you're a beginner to eyeshadows, that's always quite good so you're not going full on intense. I'm with mascara now and obviously going to go in with this one. Okay, so moving back to the skin portion, I'm going to go in with this bronzer right here, which I think could be a relatively good shade for me. Yeah, I'd say that's a good shade bronzer for my skin tone. I really like that. I think maybe for light to medium as well this work. Again, I don't think any darker this would translate on the skin at all. I have to say I really like the formulation of the bronzer. It's really nice because obviously I've only set under my eyes and down my T-zone. I haven't set the rest of my skin like I usually do, and the bronzer is sitting really nicely on unset skin. And for me that's a good sign of a bronzer because I don't like to set my entire face always, so I feel like it's giving a nice sheen to my skin as well. I don't know if that's this. Yep, so that bronzer I really like. That, like I said, my skin tone suits perfectly and works perfectly over unset skin, which is a big thing for me as well, so I really like that. Now for blusher, I'm toying between the two. So obviously the bottom two are definitely going to be too dark for me, but I'm not really a pink fan, so I think I'm going to go the more coral shade, you know. It's just my, oh right, it's pigmented, okay. It's just my kind of shade. Oh yeah. Okay, so you need to be careful, this is pigmented. If you ever do go a bit over OTT with whatever... Right, I think I fixed that. As I was saying, if you were to go over the top with the blusher, just go back on your foundation brush that you just used, provided there's no eyeshadow on there, and just clear it up and it'll be fine. Anyway, so like that bronzer as well, that blusher as well. Like I said, there's no highlighter, but to be honest, everything's given a nice glow to the skin anyway, so I'm just going to leave that. So the final thing I've got left to try out are these lipsticks. Like I said, I'm going to test out all four on my lips, see how it works. I'm going to go backwards in terms of colour shade, because I just think, because I've gone actually, I've gone quite dark on the eyes, so I don't want to go too dark on the lips, and I feel like that is definitely way too dark. So we're going to start with that one anyway. I'm going to use a lip brush to apply them, obviously. I would say they're not the most opaque of lipsticks, like you have to go in a few times with layers. It's kind of much different of a colour than I thought it would in comparison to what it looks like in the pan. So depending on whether you want a really defined lip line, you can just use your fingers in all honesty. So that's the first shade. Sheen to it, so it's not a matte lipstick at all. Almost a metallic finish, but not quite. So I'm going to obviously quickly just swatch the other three for you. So that's the second shade, a bit more of a pink shade, really pretty I think. Again, it's got that kind of metallic finish to it, it's not really, but looks really pretty. Again, it's a lot of building up to do to get the opacity that I wanted. So that's the next one, very similar to the very first dark one I tried out, but it's much more of a lighter version, but still kind of that bronzed colour to it I think. And it doesn't actually look too bad with the eyes either, so that's quite a nice colour to go for. Okay, and that's the lightest lipstick of the palette. I think this is really pretty. It's definitely more of, this is definitely much more of a sheen to the lips, so a touch of colour. Again, it's that very similar kind of brown bronzed kind of colour. So apart from this one, which was pink, the rest are very similar in tones, just slightly lighter or darker than the other. So, yeah, but they feel really comfortable on the lips, quite glossy. I can't imagine they're going to last particularly long. So that's me trying out everything in my palette, and now it's time to give my final verdict on this palette. So I'm going to break it down section by section. So starting with the first bit, which was the blushes, bronzer and finishing powder. The bronzer I'd say was a really nice formula. It was great for my skin tone, gave a really beautiful sheen. However, like I said, it's great for my skin tone. So if you're going to get the whole palette, that's not, if you're like deeper than me, that's not going to work for you, which is not the best. Again, the finishing powder, that one was a little bit like a shade, half shade to a shade too dark for me, so didn't do any highlighting. It seems to set everything quite nicely. However, again, if you're someone with a deeper skin tone, that isn't going to work for you either. Now in terms of the blushes, you've got a nice selection of shades and tones I think. So you've got the pinks, corals and then quite a deep browny, reddy brown almost. So like I said, those two great for fair, light, medium skin tones, and as you get more darker, these two would again be great. I think actually they did the blushers as a 4 individually as well, so it's quite a good thing to check out. Then moving on to the next section, which was the eyeshadows and the lipsticks. I say the eyeshadows are really nice. There is fallout, and like I said, I think they work best when you pack them onto the lid, but they give great pigmentation when they build up. I thought they blended out really nicely, so I really enjoyed using those. Again, I wish there was some kind of more matte shade in here just to make it more wearable, I think. But I think you get a nice selection of colours. The lipsticks again are nice. They're not my kind of lipsticks, admittedly. Like, I like matte lipsticks. I don't mind, they're not like super glossy or sticky, anything like that, but I just find they're not the kind of shades I go for. I don't typically go for the browns too much. You get one pink in here, but that's it. And they do all have like a metallic finish to them, which again isn't necessarily my favourite finish of lipstick. But again, I think you can get those separately. So, in all honesty, I would recommend getting, like, I'd recommend everything in here, but maybe not as one palette. So if you were summer, like I said, if you're someone with a deeper skin tone, then the eyeshadows are going to be great, the lipsticks are going to be great, and those two blushes are going to be great. But the other blushes, the bronzer and the finishing powder aren't going to work for you. I mean, if you're a fair skin tone, then this does work, but again, you've got two blushes that don't work for you. The finishing powder isn't the best for fair skin tone, I don't think, more for light to medium. Eyeshadows, again, great, and lipsticks, again, it just depends on your preference. And my preference, like I said, is more of a matte finish. I would have liked them to be a bit more opaque. It's a lot of building up to do, and a lot less of a metallic finish as well. And again, they're not really my kind of go-to lipstick colours. So, like I said, I've enjoyed the products I've used, but I don't know if I would recommend this palette as a whole. I'd maybe go and try out the individual things to find the things that you like. So, I mean, it's great that they've got a mirror in here. It is cardboard, but it feels very sturdy, I'd say. And again, it's all natural, ethical makeup, which makes it extra great. I just don't think you need to necessarily get the whole palette as one. So that is the video complete. Let me know your thoughts on this palette down below. If you've tried this palette, let me know your thoughts. And even if you haven't tried it, let me know your thoughts of what you thought of this palette as well. Everything will be linked down below. And yeah, so leave some requests for future videos down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.